Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome to yet another cheeky instalment of Rees Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming, and technology. Hope you're all well out there. Welcome to another weekend, and indeed another episode of Rees Rambles. The weather being quite variable here in the UK at the moment. We've had quite a bit of rain. We had some hail the other day. That was quite exciting. And generally kind of warmish and kind of sunnyish, but pretty typical for this time of year. I've been doing some DIY. I've spent a few days around the house doing some bathroom stuff and some hallway stuff, some living room stuff, painting things, fitting bits of skirting board, doing bits of filling, silicone sealant, all of that kind of thing. And also filled a hole in a bath, which I was quite pleased with because the end result was quite nice. If only I had a picture ready to show to you. But I don't. Anyway, onwards and upwards. Yes, of course, it is Zap Live this weekend. That event going on in Coventry, just down the road from me. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend this year, but I do know quite a few people who are attending, so hope you enjoy that particular event. And speaking of events, there has been quite a lot of talk of Retro Fest. This is Retro Directory, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with Retro Directory, retro.directory. It's run by my very good friend Rob Smith of the YouTube channel Rob Smith Dev, not the guy from The Cure. It's a great directory of all sorts of venues and events and museums and things all over the world. So do go and check that out. But yes, Retrofest UK, and that is happening in a couple of weeks' time in Swindon. So if we just go through to the event page here, retrofest.uk, a celebration of retro computers. Of course, the Swindon Museum of Computing being quite heavily involved in this event, as are Short Circuit Events and Pixel Addict magazine. And the venue for this one is at the Steam Museum, the Museum of the Great Western Railway. And Saturday, May the 30th and the 31st, the Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've got 2 days to go. And tickets are now on sale, £10 per day. So, if you're interested in that, do pop down. I do have quite a few people badgering me, asking if I could potentially go and join them. And you know what? Maybe I will. Anyway, that's that. Let's get on with this week's Ramble. But first, of course, a very brief diversion via our sponsor, PCBWay.com, who are long-term sponsors of Rees Rambles and indeed my main YouTube channel, ctrl-alt-rees. Well known in the industry for all of their support, of course, for all of these wonderful small channels, and also their 11-plus year offering of PCB fabrication services, for which they have built up quite the enviable reputation. But today, they have asked me to let you know about their additional offerings. Services such as 3D printing, CNC machining, injection molding, and sheet metal fabrication, which of course go hand in hand with their core PCB fabrication offering. So if any of those are indeed of interest to you for your next project, please do check out the link to PCBWay.com down in the description. And once more, a big thank you to PCBWay for all of your support for Rees Rambles and indeed ctrl-alt-rees. It seems like once upon a time in the retro community, around, I don't know, maybe 25 years ago, something like that, the late 90s, kind of the turn of the century kind of time, at least for me, everybody was talking about getting their own arcade machine, or indeed building their own arcade machine in their house, with a PC inside it running MAME, the Multiple Arcade Machine emulator. And I must admit, way back when, probably about 20 years ago, I also got bit by that bug, and I decided I wanted to build my own cabinet. But unfortunately, due to my living circumstances at the time, I didn't have the means or the tools or the skills or indeed the space to actually build a cab from scratch. So I bought one on eBay, and I actually bought 3 on eBay. I think I paid something like £12 for all 3. The other 2 were complete and utter junk, so they got disposed of pretty much immediately. And I brought one home, the Video Star Mark II, which I covered in this video that you can see here, which was 5 years ago. Look at this, 2,500 views 5 years ago. My 12-year journey. And this is me in my old garage, showing off my arcade machine and talking about basically finishing off the restoration of it and the kind of the build of it, which was a project that I was committing to getting on board with pretty much immediately. You may not be surprised to hear, dear viewer/listener, that didn't happen. This is now a 17-year and counting journey, and we've actually gone a bit backwards because the cab is in far worse condition now than it was when I showed it in this video. It's in the office next door. The monitor doesn't work nearly as well as it did 5 years ago. It needs recapping. I've got the bits to do that. It might need a new flyback as well. I'm not quite sure. The PC, it had a Mac Mini in it originally, which obviously I've now used on the channel for a few projects. It then had a PC in it, which I believe is what was inside it when I made this video 5 years ago. That PC became the basis for my NAS here in the studio, so that's now backing up all of my raw footage for all my videos and things. And yeah, the cab's just kind of been wheeled about from place to place with, empty promises of someday some kind of full-on restoration of that project. I will get around to it, I promise. I fully intend to. Now, so I got bitten by the bug and I got my own arcade machine. But for those out there who perhaps didn't have the means to build their own, or indeed work on their own cabinets, or perhaps didn't have the will to do it, or the skills, or just couldn't be bothered, just wanted to buy something that worked. There were the Arcade 1-Up cabs, of course. Of course, that company now has gone bust, but those kind of smaller scale arcade cabs with the TFT screens, officially licensed games and things. Really good community around those, kind of modding them, upgrading the controls and stuff like that. But as mentioned, sadly, that company is now defunct. Just letting this video play here. This is quite interesting seeing some of these other cabs and things that I bought. Do go and check this out. This will be linked down below. It is quite an older video. It is one of my earliest videos on my channel. Still quite interesting to see. But yeah, of course, now with Arcade 1-Up gone, there is a bit of a hole in the market once more. And a few people have sent a Kickstarter campaign to me for a group that are attempting to fill that hole with a very, very interesting looking product, I will say. This is the Swap Arcade. Let's just rewind back to the beginning of this video. There we go. That's what it looks like folded up. So for the benefit of my audio listeners, it's just a little cupboard that you would have in your house, really, a little wooden cupboard. The kind of thing that you would keep your drinks in, or maybe your crockery or something like that. And as we can see, if we hit play on the video, this very, very quickly and easily folds out into a full-size arcade cabinet. There's the chap's wife there looking very confused. I didn't know we had an arcade machine. Where's this come from? And then he folds it back down. Look, it was the cupboard all along. Huh. My goodness. Anyway, now I don't know who these people are. They may well turn out to be hideous milkshake duck type people. Certainly wouldn't be the first time that's happened to me, but enough people sent this to me and I thought it was an interesting enough product that I just wanted to kind of acknowledge it and just see what it was all about. So yeah, the Swap Arcade, as we can see, this runs multiple systems. You can plug your Switch PC into it. Apparently it emulates PlayStation and stuff as well, older retro games. And we'll have a read about that in a moment and see what the deal is with that. But yeah, 54,900, near enough 55 grand raised so far, which is about 5 times their initial goal. So very, very popular project indeed over on Kickstarter. 64 backers so far and 27 days to go. So if you want to buy one of these, if you want to buy the actual cab, apparently this Kickstarter price is 35% off the retail price, $1,097, which Kickstarter tells me is about £821. And for that, you get one full transforming Swap Arcade cabinet at the special early bird launch price, complete with a Raspberry Pi 4 gaming system installed and ready to play retro arcade games out of the box, plus compatibility for modern consoles like a Nintendo Switch and PlayStation. Transforms from a full arcade into a compact furniture cabinet for your home cabinet, available in natural, walnut, dark tobacco, or unfinished. Ooh, walnut. Ooh. Okay, now I'm interested. Also, you'll see that Doom features quite heavily in their video campaign stuff and stuff here as well. So shout out to the Doom Shrine. Always good to get a Doom mention. Swap Arcade is a full-size arcade that transforms into a beautiful furniture cabinet in seconds. Open, it's a real full-size arcade with full controls and a classic arcade presence. You would never guess it could fold away. I mean, I guess the hinges on it and the weird dimensions and the fact that it's attached to the wall are probably a bit of a giveaway, but you know what? It is what it is. Anyway, closed, it becomes a clean furniture cabinet that fits anywhere in your home. It comes in multiple colours, blends naturally into your space, and you would never suspect there is a full arcade hidden inside. And there you go. There's nothing like this else anywhere. A real arcade you want to play, a beautiful piece of furniture when you don't. Actually, I will say that part of the plan, I had my arcade cab when it was working years and years ago in the dining room in my old house. And I had a plan, because the bottom part of it was basically just empty and kind of wasted space. I had a plan to turn it into a drinks fridge and have it so you could just open the whole front, which I did do. I did fit the hinges for that. I used some like kitchen cabinet hinges on there. I was going to have a drinks fridge inside there, and then obviously it would be a functional bit of furniture as well as an arcade cab. So feel free to steal that idea if you like. I may still do that. You never know. But yeah, so we've explained what comes with it, so I won't go over that again. But it comes with a 27-inch HDMI display with built-in speakers. It's got 2-player arcade control panel with Sanwa joysticks, 8-button controls for each player, and auxiliary function buttons. We've got the built-in Raspberry Pi 4, which has a cooling fan, Batacera pre-installed, which is a kind of a retro gaming-focused Linux distro, and a starter set of 100 games. Presumably they are officially licensed, or indeed weird like clones / knockoffs. I'm not quite sure. Maybe the campaign will tell us. And compatibility with basically anything else you want to plug into it. PlayStation, Switch. Why don't they mention Xbox? That's weird, isn't it? Anyway, or PC. And of course the different cabinet finishes as already mentioned. It's about 70 inches tall by 28 inches wide by 14 deep, or when it's folded up, it's 36 tall by 29 inches wide by 13.5 deep. And controls run through the Brook Zero Pi fighting board encoder. That's cool. That's quite a well regarded low latency arcade control interface for the Raspberry Pi, so that's good to see. Looks like they know what they're doing. It also supports light guns by the look of it as well. Obviously not your good old-fashioned CRT light guns as we would have had back in the day in the arcades, but evidently one of these modern light gun based projects. So there is quite a it's the Sinden light gun. There you go. You wouldn't be able to tell that I don't actually read these things before I start, would you? I read some of them, but I haven't looked at this one, I must admit. Anyway, there are some upgrades, so you can stick an N100 mini PC in there. That sounds like quite a worthwhile upgrade. Obviously, it opens up lots of possibilities, a bit more processing power and stuff for some more modern games. Wireless keyboards and various other bits and pieces like that. So there is a bit about the development of this thing and the history behind it as well, just as part of the campaign page. But of course, as you know, I don't like to read everything and give everything away. So we've got the £1,097 Swap Arcade early bird price. You can get two for $2,000. That's dollars. $2,197 for two. You can get an arcade kit, which doesn't include the cab, but it is all of the controls and the screen and everything else with the Raspberry Pi. That's $447. And you can have a sticker for $5 if you just want to throw some money their way and give them some support. And one Swap Arcade, we've got the early bird price and the full price. So that's the Swap Arcade, the full arcade that turns into a furniture cabinet. Once again, no affiliation, no sponsorship, nothing like that. I haven't been paid to talk about this. It's just, I've seen it pop up in quite a few places. A few people have told me about it, and I thought it looked like a really interesting project. So best of luck to the people behind the Swap Arcade. I really hope that you are good people. Don't let me down. So let us take a moment just to reflect upon the life of Steve Jobs. That's right, he co-founded Apple way back in the early 80s with Steve Wozniak and helped to bring some of Wozniak's finest creations to market. Stuff like the Apple II, perhaps most famously. And then, of course, they went on to develop the original Macintosh, which was massively successful at the time. And then Steve Jobs was kicked out of the company and founded Next Computer, did some quite important work over there, bailed out Pixar, gave them a huge injection of cash, which basically rescued the entire company, allowed them to get Toy Story out of the door and eventually be acquired by Disney. Perhaps the less said about that, the better. And then, he came back to the company, was brought back on board, brought his expertise and technology from Next back to Apple. And that some of that technology ended up being the foundations of the new iMac. If you remember those lovely translucent, colourful plastic ones with the CRT screen. And then, of course, shortly afterwards, releasing the iPod and the iPhone. And then very sadly passing away in 2011 at the age of 56. Now, I'm not saying that Steve Jobs was single-handedly responsible for inventing all of those things and developing those things. But he was, I think it's fair to say, he was a bit of a business genius. And, the business wouldn't be what it is today without him. What better way to honour the life of one of tech's biggest names and perhaps most important personalities than a very wonky-looking $1 coin with his picture on it. Look at this. Is this actually Steve Jobs? This is a story over on Engadget. The Steve Jobs $1 coin goes on sale today, starting at $61 for a roll. This was the 12th of May, and from what I can see, I think they're all sold out, at least based on the comments on here. But if we just zoom in on this, Is that supposed to be Steve Jobs? I mean, I guess he's got his famous sweater and his jeans and trainers on, and I guess that's like the California landscape behind him. Really? Anyway, you can purchase the $1 innovation coin featuring Apple's Steve Jobs from the US Mint starting today. May the 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. The US Mint has been releasing specialty coins every year since 2018 to honour American innovation and the pioneering efforts of individuals or groups. Late last year, it revealed designs for the 2026 innovation coins, with Jobs depicting him as a younger man sitting cross-legged in front of a quintessential California landscape with rolling hills and oak trees. Well done, Reese. I knew that was California. His posture and expression, as is captured in a moment of reflection, show how this environment inspired his vision to transform complex technology into something as intuitive and organic as nature itself, the Mint said at the time. The coin's inscription on the tail side included Jobs' name and the words, "Make something wonderful." I think different would have been quite cool, wouldn't it? On the head side is a profile of the Statue of Liberty along with Liberty Bell, with an inscription that reads, "To 50 to commemorate the country's 250th anniversary." On the edge of the coin, you'll find the mint mark and the year of minting. The $1 Steve Jobs coin will be available for purchase in 25 roll coins for $61, amounting to $2.44 each, and 100 coin bags for $154.50 or $1.55 each. You'll be able to buy coins minted in Philadelphia and Denver today. And yes, you'll be able to choose between the two. Coins minted in California will be available in the third part of 2026. Oh, there you go. So if you still want to get your hands on these, there will be another run of these minted in California itself, of course, the home state of Mr. Jobs. So keep an eye out for those if this is something that you are interested in. Just a reminder of what his face looks like there. So it's the 250th anniversary of course, the founding of the great country of the United States of America. That's quite interesting. Let's just close this and go to the page. As mentioned, there are people in the comments talking about how this is actually sold out now. But there it is. We've got a picture of the back on there as well. Got the old Statue of Liberty, "In God We Trust." Wonderful. The Liberty Bell there, 250. That's very American, isn't it? I like that. I like stuff like this. So there you go. That's a thing. And there's going to be another run of them later on this year. So watch this space. Some news from the MiSTer world. Next, of course, MiSTer being that FPGA-based gaming system. Not MiSTer World as in like the male version of Miss World. Is that a thing, MiSTer World? I don't know. Anyway, of course, FPGA, field programmable gate arrays, those programmable chips that allow us to recreate the chips of the past and give us the most accurate representation of some of those old computers and consoles and things to enjoy all that old software and old games. And the MiSTer project is something that I'm a huge fan of. As you probably know, I do own the MiSTer Multisystem, the original, and it does get a fair bit of use as well, mainly for PlayStation games at the moment. But one of the other early 3D consoles, and perhaps one of the most important early 3D consoles, and one of the first, was the Sega Saturn. And the Sega Saturn was a real technical tour de force on the MiSTer. It properly maxed out what the FPGA, what that Cyclone FPGA chip was actually capable of, because that chip is reprogrammable, as mentioned, and only has a limited number of logic gates that can be used. So you are limited in the complexity of the chips that you can create on that system. And of course, the Sega Saturn, quite a weird and unusual, interesting architecture anyway, being one of the first 3D consoles, and with the engineers kind of pushing the boundaries of what was possible with home entertainment. And it has always been a bit of a technical marvel on the platform. It's also a system I'm very much interested in. I went through a phase of exploring the back catalogue of what the Sega Saturn had to offer, and it was a very interesting console, so I do recommend checking it out. And it's great that we don't need to own the original hardware and, of course, the original discs and things, which are very much subject to bit rot and the like. So, anyway, where am I going with this? Well, there has been a rather interesting article that has come up on my radar this week. This is over on SegaSaturnShiro.com. Shiro podcast, videos, articles, and news. Very, very interesting website. But the headline here, the Saturn MiSTer Core optimizations overcome chock-full FPGA. And just to give you a bit of an introduction to the story, the Saturn MiSTer Core's most requested feature is finally here. The The FPGA device's LEDs now mimic an actual Saturn's power and disk read lights. That's right, they've added flashing LEDs to the Saturn MiSTer core. Big news! No, but of course, there is a lot more to it than this. There's some really cool, very interesting technical information in this article about the Saturn core. So maybe that isn't the most requested feature, continues the article, but it is one of the improvements found in a set of updates to the core uploaded Thursday to the project's GitHub. More importantly, the core's been optimized to make it easier to compile into a usable build after compilation proved difficult the previous month because of how large the core is. None of these updates are available on the main branch of the MiSTer, accessible via Update All. Instead, they are in the unstable nightlies at the moment. So yeah, if you do want to check out these latest enhancements, you do need to manually go and download the core, or indeed switch to the unstable branch. I believe that's a thing that you can do. And there are separate builds for MiSTers with a single RAM chip and those with dual RAM chips, because the core is able to offload some functions to the extra memory afforded by dual RAM setups to free up some of its onboard resources. And yeah, that's important because those onboard resources are at their breaking point. The Saturn core is using nearly all of the adaptive logic modules available on the MiSTer's hardware platform, the D10 Nano. That gives programs like Quartus fits when trying to build it into a usable RBF file. Is it Quartus or Quartus? I don't suppose it really matters. Anyway, Zet Sensei, who works closely with Saturn core developer Sergey SRG320 Dvodnenko, to test updates, made it clear how tough it is to build the core now. It's quite difficult indeed, he said. My computer wants to die. Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, there is a bit more of an in-depth look at some of the new features that have been added in this latest build. But more importantly, all sorts of information about the build process, which I'd never even considered as far as MiSTer is concerned. You know, you have Update All, these cores just appear from somewhere over the internet. And if you're anything like me, you don't really pay attention to the development of them other than kind of looking at news stories and things. I'd never thought about the development process, about programming the actual cores and about how they had to be compiled into RBF files to run on the actual MiSTer. And there is some in-depth information here about that process and about how that works, and also about how that process can be optimized to make it more efficient as well. So I highly recommend it. It's a detailed article. It's not overly long, but it is quite detailed. And I would hate to do it an injustice by trying to sum it up here. So if that has whetted your appetite, and that's something that you want to go and learn a little bit more about, that story will be linked down below in the description if you are watching this on my second YouTube channel, youtube.com/ReesRambles, or indeed in the show notes of your podcast platform of choice. I'm now tripping over my words, so I think we'll call that a day. But yeah, do go check it out, along with all of the other stories featured in this week's Ramble, and indeed every other week's Ramble, as always. So from one bit of MiSTer news to another this week, and I want to take a little moment just to talk about the SuperStation 1 from Taki Udon. Of course, we followed along with the development of this project a year or so ago, saw it through to completion and to release, and it has proven to be very high quality offering in the MiSTer world. If you are looking to get into playing all of those wonderful old console and computer cores in the comfort of your own living room. Of course, there's the MiSTer multi-system and the classic MiSTer stack and quite a few other MiSTer systems available as well. So please do explore your options. But yeah, Taki Udon, of course, known as a tech YouTuber, known for screen replacements for stuff like the Nintendo Switch and quite a few other very interesting hardware projects on his channel. So do go and check him out. But he has been very much heavily involved in the MiSTer world recently, as mentioned. He is developing his own front end, which has been released and does feature on the SuperStation. So we'll take a look at that. But yeah, this is a review of the hardware itself from our good friend Damien McFerrin, of course, over at timeextension.com. # not sponsored. Review: the SuperStation 1, this $210 FPGA PlayStation, puts Sony's PS Classic to shame. Shows Sony how it should be done. Of course, the PS Classic, released by Sony a few years back, it was a rather cool looking little unit, I will say. But it ran like an ARM software emulator. You could load it up with your own games and things, but kind of left a lot to be desired. It was quite lacking in a few places. Although, you know, fine as a kind of pick up and play thing for anyone looking to check out the PlayStation back catalogue, as I have been doing on this PS3 for what seems like about a year now. Back to the review. When it comes to new versions of old consoles, there are a few different options on the market right now. Nintendo, Sony and Sega have opted for software emulation on their micro console offerings, while SNK has teamed up with PlayOn to produce the Neo Geo AES Plus, a forthcoming replica system which features recreated chips rather than emulation. Beyond official options, you have a growing number of FPGA-based alternatives, and these systems tend to attract the truly hardcore retro gamers because they allow the reproduction of vintage systems at the hardware level, offering high accuracy and low latency. Platforms like the Analog Pocket, Analog 3D, and Analog Duo allow you to use your original games and accessories, lending them an additional level of authenticity, while the open source MiSTer FPGA, which I was talking about a moment ago, offers the same level of accuracy, but with a wider selection of supported systems, including arcade machines, handhelds, computers, and more. And here we have some photos of the SuperStation 1 next to the original Sony PS1, which of course was the later release of the PlayStation 1. And look at this thing. It's the same size and shape, of course. Doesn't have the optical drive, although I believe there was an optical drive add-on for this that Taki Udon was also involved with. But the important thing about this is that it does support the original controllers and memory cards and has the actual sockets on the front for those original peripherals if you want a very authentic experience. And that is indeed talked about here in this review. Now, I'm not going to read the whole review to you, again, because it is quite long. It's very detailed, as you might expect from Time Extension. But what you need to know, if you are looking at buying one of these, please do go and give this a read because it is very interesting. But what all you need to know, really, is that it is an overwhelmingly positive review. And I wouldn't expect any less from Taki Udon. We've got some of the features pictured here on the side of the unit. We've got the composite video output, the S video. We've also got the interface for the gun. Of course, the original GunCon controller had to basically be plugged into the composite video feed, so there's a dedicated connector for that. And we've also got the analog audio outputs on there. Lovely phono jacks. What's this? We've got component video as well. A really, really well thought out unit. It's got an expansion connector on it, which I believe is, that's for the forthcoming Super Dock, which is the optical drive that I mentioned. But what a lovely, neat little unit. They've given it 9 out of 10, an excellent rating. The pros being the support for the original PS1 controllers and accessories. The MiSTer FPGA ecosystem is mature, supports loads of retro platforms. Of course, you're not limited to just playing PlayStation games on this. FPA performance is accurate and low latency. The AV options are wide-ranging. I certainly agree with that. It's fantastic connectivity on this unit. Loads of extra features when compared to the standard MiSTer FPGA, and the optional Super Dock will enable support for physical media. The cons being that MiSTer FPGA isn't exactly user-friendly, so casual users might struggle. As mentioned, Taki Udon is working on a new front end for this. And the unit gets noticeably warm during use, so the FPGA chip that is used in the MiSTer is supposedly safe to be used fanlessly. Some of the units do incorporate a cooling fan. I like to have a cooling fan just to kind of prolong the life of that chip, although it's not entirely necessary. But they are known for running quite warm, but just keep it in a well-ventilated spot, I guess. Anyway, great to see a rather nice review of this unit, having been following along with the development and covering it from the beginning. Great to see that it is being so highly regarded and highly reviewed. It isn't just Time Extension, of course, that have got their hands on this. Also quite well received by the MiSTer community as well. So excellent stuff. Well done to Taki Udon. And if you are looking to get your hands on one of these, please do go and check out this review, and it will point you in the right direction. Go and order one for yourself. Of course, this wouldn't be an episode of Rees Rambles without a shout out to the Doom Shrine behind me, my collection of Doom-related releases and paraphernalia, ranging from my original shareware release of Doom, which came with our PC when I was 10 years old, all the way up to some Doom Eternal stuff, some modern stuff like the Revenant statue. Where did that end up? Oh, that's just there behind me. And we've got the Doom Tubbs duck things, the plushies that Bethesda released a few years back, the pewter statue things. And we've got Sigil there, the John Romero's level pack, Sigil 1 and Sigil 2. We've got a signed poster with all the development team on there. And also probably one of my favourite things in my collection, the original mail order boxed copy of Doom that you had to write off to id Software to send off for back in the day. Bit of a tour of the Doom Shrine. Anyway, of course, every week I like to have a story about Doom because, as you might have guessed, it is one of my favourite games of all time. And This is about a new mod that looks quite interesting for the original Doom. Now, I will say, just going into this, not wanting to poo-poo the efforts of Steve Morrill here, because I do like this. I do think it looks really cool. I am a bit of a purist when it comes to Doom. When I play Doom, if possible, I like to play it on my 486, using the original engine, one of the original releases of Doom or Doom 2. And to be honest, even having experimented with all the external things like the Roland Sound Canvas and, MIDI devices and stuff, I quite like just the OPL Sound Blaster 16 soundtrack. It's very authentic and very nostalgic for me. But I will say some of the stuff that people are doing with some of these modern source ports is very interesting to see, and some more kind of modern takes on id Software's original vision. So I'm certainly not against them. And when you see the sheer amount of work that's going into this one, I think it's worth shouting about. So let's have a look at this. Let's stop waffling about Doom and see what this is all about. This is Steve Morrill's post in the Doom repository group over on Facebook. I am not a Facebook regular. I do have an account because I do post my videos over there. But I'm on Facebook, so you don't have to be. And Steve Morrill's post here says, "Good morning. New screenshots from Des. What is Des? Des stands for Doom Enhancements, because anything spelt with a Z is that much cooler. Would it make me cooler if I changed my name from Reese to Rees? That's worth thinking about, isn't it? In fact, I have a grandma who calls me Rees. She always has. I'm not quite sure why. She's a bit crazy. Also, when she sends me Christmas and birthday cards, she puts an apostrophe in my name, like before the S, as well. Anyway, love you, Grandma. What is Des? Doom Enhancements, because anything spelled with a Z is that much cooler. Des is a total 3D and PBR project for GZ Doom, VK Doom, and UZ Doom, or UZ, GZ, whatever, complete with custom dynamic lighting. Des will come as 2 PK3s when released. The first was an environmental PK3, which contains all of the dynamic lighting and PBR textures, skyboxes and liquids, etc. The second PK3 will be optional 3D packages that contain weapons, monsters, pickups, etc. based on the following Doom games: Doom, Doom 3, Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal. So Steve is incorporating different elements of, like future versions of Doom into the original game, and it is turning out to be quite an interesting looking project. Now, this is released in 2 parts for 2 reasons. One being that if you install all of his mods at the same time, it actually ends up being very, very demanding, even on modern hardware, with the modern ray traced lighting and stuff. But also, you can kind of chop and change and put things together in any combination that you like, based on which weapons or enemies or graphical mods that you'd like to see in your game of Doom. So nice to have that flexibility. Anyway, Des is work in progress. I'm working alone on the project, and it's a large project. It will be released when ready. And it says here, tomorrow I'll post screenshots of the mod running with both the 3D models and relighting, which I haven't been able to find. But let's click and take a look at these screenshots of the actual new textures and things and some of the 3D work, because this is, and the new lighting, indeed, because this is quite impressive. So the first thing that stands out, of course, are the original sprites. We've got the original lamppost there and the barrels and things, but don't let those distract you. I love these wall textures. There's one we'll see a bit later on that has quite a bit of texture to it, which is really, really nice. But the lighting, it's not Doom, but at the same time, it is kind of recognisably Doom, isn't it? If we just click through to some more of these, we've got the underground section. I believe this is the 2nd level of Doom 2, is it? Doesn't really matter. We've got the very minimal HUD, of course, that we're kind of getting used to from some of the newer releases. Again, I'm a purist. I like the whole bar across the bottom with all the stuff and the little Doom guy's face there. This metal texture on the buttons and things, very well done. I think this brushed metal kind of stainless steel texture, I quite like that. I quite like these textured walls. Not immediately obvious in this screenshot, but there was one a bit later on that was... we've got these, where all of these walls have kind of been modelled, these wall textures, in quite a bit of detail in 3D. And it works. It gives it a bit of a Doom 3 vibe, I guess, to some extent. And what was the later one that I was thinking of? This one as well, where we've got these little cylinder things in the walls, which I've spent so much of my time looking at, but never really pondered as to what they might actually be. Doesn't really matter, I suppose. And we've got the original enemy sprites and things in there as well. So very interested to see how this project unfolds. A fascinating news article, I will say, for my audio listeners. I do apologise. I've tried to explain this as best as I can, but oh my God, look at that lava. That glows, doesn't it? And those health pickups as well in the dark. I don't know how to feel about this lighting. It certainly adds something, doesn't it? And those original sprites that have kind of been weirdly rounded off as they've been upscaled. Whatever scaler they're using on those. But ongoing work in progress. I quite like the visual style of this. It'll be really interesting to see how it looks with all of the kind of 3D modelled weapons and items and things in there as well. Just want to wish Steve Murrell all the best of luck with this mod. Always nice to see people doing interesting things with my favourite game of all time. And I just thought that this one looked particularly noteworthy. I wanted to spend some time looking at it and talking about it. And I hope you've enjoyed our Doom time together too. Now, if you're one of those people who were around in the 8-bit era of gaming, and I'm talking specifically about computer gaming, home micro gaming here rather than the consoles, we're talking about systems like the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, the Atari 8-bits, the BBC Micro and its cut-down sibling, the Acorn Electron, of course, and, of course, the mighty Amstrad CPC, among many, many others. And indeed, this is a series that did span kind of into the 16-bit era as well and does have some modern incarnations, and we can't forget about those. But yeah, you will no doubt be familiar with everyone's favourite spreadsheet simulator, Football Manager. Now, Football Manager, quite an iconic series of games with Kevin Toms and his glowing, bearded, mulleted face on the box. Was it a mullet? It's probably not a mullet. I'm sat here looking at a picture of him. Of course, this is a World Cup year. We do have the 2026 FIFA World Cup coming up. And what better way to celebrate that for football fans than to bring back the original Football Manager game. Now, this has been emailed to me by Alan Turvey, who is involved with this project. It's also been posted on my Discord server and a few other Discords that I am a member of, and on some of the other gaming news sites as well. So I was going to cover this. But thanks, Alan. Thanks for your email. It's always nice to, get a bit of a suggestion, and nice to know that people are thinking of me as well. I know you're a regular listener. Anyway, this is Back to Time Extension. Again, this is just the link that was posted. And original Football Manager creator returns to the ZX Spectrum just in time for the 2026 World Cup. And this is ZX Football Manager, the Legacy Collection, which combines 3 flavours of the classic game. Story here by Jack Yarwood. The creator of the football management sim, Kevin Toms, is partnering up with homebrew publisher Midnight Brew Games for a new ZX Spectrum-based collection, inspired by the series that made him famous. And I just want to talk. I have mentioned Midnight Brew Games quite a few times on my rambles over the past couple of years because they do. They've done some really excellent charity packages, some incredibly generous charity bundles over the years, which I always like to give a shout out to every year because they are a great bunch of people and they do great work. So if you've heard of Midnight Brew Games, that's probably where. But yes, of course, being quite big in the Spectrum world and churning out some really kind of quite high quality collections and homebrew titles and things for that platform. They were, of course, the natural choice for the re-release of Football Manager. Anyway, back to the story. Bit of a waffle there. A ramble. Bit of a diversion. ZX Football Manager, the Legacy Collection, writes Jack Yarwood, is a new limited edition box set developed in collaboration with the 80s developer, containing the original 1982 Football Manager on cassette, along with 2 updated versions of the game described as different flavours of the groundbreaking management simulation. This includes Football Manager Revisited, a revised version of the classic game by Glenn Anderson that adds the top 4 European leagues, as well as updated modern teams and players, and many new features, and Football Manager Revisited International Edition, which allows you to recreate the 2026 and 1982 World Cups. The latter tournament is exclusive to the physical release. The digital version is available here. Oh, very cool. So as we can, look at this, look at the way this is all packaged up. That's very cool indeed. Anyway, let's, rather than trying to work out what all this stuff is, let's just read what the article has to say. So, the collection is presented in a premium protective slipcase and high-quality presentation box featuring foam-protected cassette editions with reversible covers. And will also include additional bonuses such as a signed replica of Tom's Addictive Games business card and that's Kevin Toms, and a full colour 24-page matchday programme containing the following: profiles of every player from the original squad in classic stickerbook format, a special Roy of the Rovers inspired comic strip charting Kevin's journey. Roy of the Rovers, that was a little bit before my time. I'm familiar with it though. archive photography and development documents from the original game, behind-the-scenes insights into the rise of addictive games from a one-man mail-order outfit to a million-selling games publisher, fully restored vintage artwork presented as a centerfold feature, and contemporary reviews, adverts, game variants, and puzzles. We asked Alan Turvey of Midnight Brew Games why the publisher decided to put together this collection, and here's what he told us. We put this set together to celebrate the original Football Manager as not just a simulation on an old 8-bit computer, but as a culturally and historically important piece of work whose story says a lot about the social history of Britain at a time of huge upheaval and change, and whose influence continues to this day. We wanted to tell that story properly. As for whether they're worried about releasing the game without a PFA/FIFA license, Turvey added, as to the question of licensing teams and players, we're hopeful that this will be seen in the spirit in which it is offered. The digital versions of all 3 games in this collection are non-commercial and available as free downloads. Our aim here is to provide a very limited run on a classic physical format as a souvenir shelf piece. So you can order it now from Midnight Brew Games for £36 plus £8 delivery in the UK, and it is expected to ship in the next month or so, June or July 2026. So no official license from FIFA. FIFA, please do not spoil this for the classic gaming fans out there. It's a fun little project, and it does help to kind of raise the profile of football and stuff as well, I guess. Because maybe there's people out there who haven't heard of football and only know of it through Football Manager. I mean, it's a possibility, isn't it? Anyway, that's the Legacy Collection, Football Manager, available now and shipping in June or July. And you know what? I'm feeling generous this week, so I'm going to slip in one more little bonus story about the Spectrum for all of you wonderful people out there. This is over on itch.io, and it is Atic Atac In 3D from stevensmith.itch.io. What a cool looking project this is. Collect the 3 parts of the ACG key and use them to go through the ACG door and escape the castle. Very good. This font's quite difficult to read anyway, isn't it? Anyway, WASD controls, you can use the mouse to play it, and indeed you can download it now and name your own price if you like. There's a Mac version, a Linux version, and a Windows version as well. And if you want to see what Atic Atac looks like in 3D, I suppose what better way to experience that than with the YouTube video. Let me just click through to this, knowing how slow my internet is here in the studio. There we go. What on earth is going on here? I mean, look at this. This is, this is quite a famous, well-known kind of dungeon crawler type game on the original Spectrum. Very faithful to the original Spectrum colour palette, I will say here. But apart from that, it's a very different game indeed. But it looks like absolute chaos. It looks like a load of fun to play. And indeed, it's over on itch.io to download. Depending what operating system you use, you can name your price. You can go and give it a quick play and have a bit of fun with it. Atic Atac In 3D by Stephen Smith. Little bonus featurette for you, linked down below, as with all of the other stories featured in this week's Ramble. And that, my dearest Ramblers, brings us around rather neatly to my regular Videos of the Week feature, wherein I feature a video, or indeed videos, plumbed from the depths of my YouTube watch history that have enlightened, educated, entertained, or otherwise improved my life in some small way. Often there's one video, often there's more than one video. Sometimes they're vintage and retro computing, tech and gaming related. Sometimes they're not at all. But this week I have 3 for you, and they are 3 absolute classic selections from Rees Rambles, as you might have come to expect from me. So without further ado, let's see what these videos are all about. Now, this first one is from Peter Lee, Nostalgia Nerd, and not a channel that I've featured a lot on Rees Rambles. I don't think he needs too much of a leg up. He is kind of one of the OGs of British computing YouTubing, but very much a big figure and a well-known name in this world. Of course, he took a bit of a break for a while. He tried launching his own gaming pub, which unfortunately didn't work out. Shared an office with Ashens as well up in Norwich, and has always kind of been part of the retro computing scene here in the UK, and has made some rather interesting documentary videos over the years as well. And this one is a little bit different for him. This one's a bit of a road trip to a physical location, the Swindon Computer Museum, Swindon Museum of Computing, to give it its proper title. Now, I'm a big fan of the Swindon Museum, and particularly Keith, the volunteer, who is very, very heavily involved in the running of the museum and kind of promotion and outreach, that kind of thing. He is also featured. There he is, Keith, looking magnificent as always. Had his own YouTube channel for a while. Indeed, still has his own YouTube channel. I think he's still occasionally making videos. But a bloody lovely chap himself, and very, very, very knowledgeable about these old computers, very passionate about them. So if you do have a chance to pop down to the museum, please do. Of course, they are responsible for that event that I talked about, the Retro Fest, which is coming up in a few weeks' time. But yeah, if you can't because you're not in the country or whatever, this video is a very good kind of substitution for that. And he not only talks about some of the stuff that they have on display in the museum's collection, but also some of the more interesting and rarer bits and pieces that they've got stashed away as well. And of course, Keith, as always, more than willing to give Pete a bit of a tour of the museum and explain everything that they have on display there. And I will say, it's been quite a while since I've seen the Swindon Museum, and it is looking absolutely marvellous at the moment. I know they had a bit of an overhaul a few years ago, again led by Keith, and yeah, it's looking absolutely splendid. So I am going to have to get down there and pay the place a visit. But for now, I'm content with Nostalgia Nerd's video. It is 16 minutes and 57 seconds long and will be linked down below. But before we talk about that, let's move on to my second video of the week. And this is a project that has sparked quite some debate, particularly after I covered it a few weeks ago. This is the new Neo Geo AES Plus, which is the re-released version of the Neo Geo. And quite interesting because this uses actual, rather than using software emulation or FPGA, this actually uses recreated chips, recreated and improved chips, which are apparently based on the work of the Neo Geo MiSTer core, I think, in some way engineered from those. It's all explained in the video, as well as some of the more kind of wider-ranging debate. A bit of history about the Neo Geo console itself and the Neo Geo arcades and the story behind those. And also kind of the wider discussion around kind of Neo Geo and its latest incarnation as well. Very interesting stuff, and I think if you are thinking about ordering one of these things, good video to watch so you can be informed as to the whole situation around it. I did touch on some of that when in my coverage a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not going to go over all of that again. Just go and watch MVG's video. It's 13 minutes, 17 seconds long, and as you might expect from MVG, quite interesting, quite the good watch. So that is that, Modern Vintage Gamer. And now for something completely different, ever so slightly different. And apologies to some of my international viewers if this video isn't available to you. I have had some comments in the past about BBC archive videos not being available outside of the UK. So if you have a VPN, have at it. You have my permission. I've at least been partially responsible for funding the BBC over the years, so I feel like you should check out the fruits of some of my labours. But anyway, this is a video from the year 2000, and it is a program called the Money Program, which is it still on? I remember it being on for donkey's years, and it's just, talking about investing in money and technology and all of that kind of stuff, the future of technology, and quite a wide-ranging kind of consumer affairs type program. I'm not explaining it very well at all, and it doesn't really matter because this is an 11-minute, 35-second long video about mobile internet. Of course, these days we take it for granted that we have the internet in our pocket, ready to go at a moment's notice, ready for all of your doom scrolling and rage baiting requirements, responsible for the decline of the mental health and the political situation of the entire global population at the moment, and something that I am very much trying to avoid by playing my Nintendo 3DS as much as possible. But back in the year 2000, of course, we were full of hope and full of promise for the future. And these internet mobiles were looking like they were very much going to be the future at the time. This covers a visit to Japan to talk about the scene over there, because, of course, they were very, very early pioneers with the mobile internet. And we're using it for video calling and streaming TV programs and stuff for years and years before the rest of the world started to catch on. So very interesting look at the future. And, of course, who could have predicted smartphones and the iPhone and, social media and the state of the internet as it is today, back in the year 2000. Yeah, like I say, we were very much full of promise and hope for the future at the time. Anyway, this is a absolutely fascinating little clip from this show. It's 11 minutes, 35 seconds, and if you are able to watch it, I think it is a fascinating viewing. Also great to see the state of Japan and kind of Tokyo and kind of the Shibuya area 26 years ago as well, when it was perhaps a little bit less open to the world than it is today. So they're my 3 videos of the week. We've got a tour of the Computer Museum in Swindon, courtesy of Nostalgia Nerd, aka Peter Lee. That's 16 minutes, 57 seconds long. We have a rather comprehensive and interesting look at the Neo Geo relaunch, the Neo Geo AES Plus. Essential viewing, I will say, for anyone looking at buying one of these things. 13 minutes, 17 seconds over on MVG. And finally, a video from the BBC archive from the Money programme in the year 2000, looking at the future of mobile internet. And there we have it. As always, my videos of the week will be linked down below in the description if you are watching this on YouTube, or in the show notes of your podcast app of choice if you are listening to this on said podcast app of choice. There we have it. So all that's left is to say a very big thank you to my Discord community, and some names, some prominent names in the Ramble submissions channel this week, contributors and people discussing some of these stories. Gravitone, Zoinks, Naoki Sozzled, Ion Storm, I can only assume that's the actual Ion Storm that released Deus Ex back in 1999. Steve's Tech Shed, Technic, Analog Sheep, Manemo, who usually gets a special shout out but isn't getting one this week. Sorry, Manemo. Gaz, Garrow, Suze, and Life Size Teddy Bear, who last week I announced had rebranded as L. But Life Size Teddy Bear informs me that that is indeed not the case. And actually I spotted that Gravitone's name was showing up as just G on Discord this week. I have no idea what's going on with Discord. It's a hellhole anyway. Not my Discord, obviously. Mine's bloody brilliant and full of wonderful people. But by and large, yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got for you for this week's Ramble. I am starting to lose my marbles, I think. But thank you ever so much for joining me. Of course, this Ramble will go out, as always, at 2 minutes to midnight UK time on my second YouTube channel, youtube.com/Reese Rambles, and also on the podcast platforms, primarily Spotify, but then it does find its way out to all of the other platforms via RSS feeds and the magic of the internet. So you can give it a listen on your commute, or indeed you can stick it on your big telly at home and see my big face every week. Speaking of every week, there will be no Ramble next week. So what is it, a week today? The 22nd of May? So the 23rd of May, Saturday the 23rd, there will be no Ramble. And the reason for that is because I'm not around. I'm actually away next week. So, wish me all the best for my little trip. But I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. And maybe I'll have a main channel video out at some point. Ha, yeah. It's a slog. Anyway, thank you ever so much for joining me, for witnessing the rapid deterioration of my mental health in real time. And I shall hopefully see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks. Bye.